Welcome everyone to the regular board meeting of the Forest Hill School District, July 27, 2020. This is the call to order. Item 2.2, roll call. Ms. Cropper?
Ms. Choice?
Here.
Mrs. Taylor? Here. Dr. Heights?
Here. So Elizabeth Barber is on the road and off the grid tonight. Leslie just texted me saying she's having some technical difficulties, but we'll get on soon. So we'll move on though. Item 2.3. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United
States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Get back on here. All right, item 3.1, motion to adopt the agenda. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Ms. Cropper?
Ms. Choice?
Yes.
Mrs. Taylor?
Yes.
Dr. Heights?
Yes. Item 4.1 and or through 4.3, approval of minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve items 4.1 through 4.3 as presented.
Get a second?
I second.
Ms. Cropper?
Ms. Choice?
Yes.
Mrs. Taylor?
Yes.
Dr. Heights?
Yes. Item 5.1, correspondence. Do we have correspondence, Mr. Prebles?
Yes, I have one item. The 2020 Heroes of Character Award nomination was sent in, and this came to us. I am pleased to share with you that Turpin sophomore Lily French has been named the Cincinnati's Character Council's 2020 Student of the Hero, 2020 Student Hero of Character. The 2020 Heroes of Character celebration will be held on October 22nd, 2020. Due to the pandemic and other factors, we will be holding this year's event virtually. It's going to look differently from the years past, and we're still working on the details. But I would like to congratulate once again Lillian French, who is a Turpin student, for being selected as the 2020 nominee, not nominee, but the Student Hero of Character. So congratulations, Lily.
Great. Okay, so Leslie, I see you're on. Can you hear us? Oh, now you're off. Okay, so she's working on, Adam, you may need to help her with that. She's having a hard time with her video. Any other correspondence? Ms. Cropper?
I have none to this evening.
Board?
No.
No, okay. District updates, item 6.1.
This item is the approval of the pre-K through 6 and 7 through 12 student parent handbooks for the 2021 school year. The only changes are graduation requirements because the state board approved and adopted new ones. All other content is the same, and the reason the board needs to approve all are for two reasons. Board policy for graduation changed, and the Ohio Revised Code mandates that the student code of conduct must be approved at a meeting every year. So I recommend the board approve the grades pre-K through 6 and grades 7 through 12 student parent handbooks for 2021 as shown in your attachments.
Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve item 6.1, the approval of the pre-K through 6 and the 7 through 12 student parent handbook for 2020 and 2021.
A second.
All right, Ms. Cropper?
Mrs. Taylor?
Yes.
Ms. Choice?
Yes.
Dr. Heights?
Yes.
And Dr. Rasmussen? Yes, I reviewed it earlier.
All right, there we go. All right. Good. Okay. Item 6.2, reopening plans. Mr. Prebbles?
Yes, sir. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go through this with you now. Thank you, Dr. Heiss. The 2021 reopening or return to school plan, I'd like to talk about that for a few seconds. I need to go to view here though, and I'm struggling with the presentation of just one slide.
I think Adam is the one that has it on right now. Oh, there we go.
So I'll try.
So Scott, Adam is controlling right now. So what do you?
I just want to present, and I can't find the present document or how.
Adam has it up. Okay, he's now not presenting. Now you can look in your lower right-hand corner and see present now.
Well, I'm moving it right now, Dr. Heiss. What I'm looking for is the presentation without the side notes here. But I'm going to move forward because I'll just do it this way.
You want Adam to bring it back up?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
So as we thought about the opening of the school year and we continue to move towards a traditional opening or a face-to-face opening, there are some experts at the national level as well as at the state level and local level that we've been talking with. But there are some important things I wanted to discuss here. The Center for Disease Control says that it's critically important for our public health to open schools this fall, and that's from the director. And it also talks about students remain at least 6 foot apart and do not share objects. So the Center for Disease Control is telling us that we should be going back to school and that we should be attempting to get that 6 foot distance between our students, in addition to other mitigation things that I'll talk about a little bit later. The American Academy of Pediatrics, they strongly advocate that all policy considerations for the coming school year start with the goal of having students physically present in the school. And they talk about a 6 feet social distance, spacing desks at 3 feet apart, and avoiding close contact may have similar benefits. So what we're seeing here is this discussion about having school, the very importance of having school, and how we need to keep children distanced from each other to ensure that they are safe. And the CDC comes out with some other considerations when we think about this, when they're talking about the opening of school. They want us to know, when we think about children, basically school-age children up to the age of 17 and 18, they have a relatively low risk for school for COVID-19. The transmission among individuals of this age is lower than what we find across other populations and other demographic groups, age groups. And they are concerned that extended closures have significant impact on students. And the things that they mention are learning loss, that it can lead to severe learning loss, and the need for in-person instruction is particularly important for students with heightened behavioral needs. Following the wave of school closures in March 2020 due to COVID-19, academic learning showed for most children, or slowed for most children, and for many of them, it stopped. That's a consideration that they want us to be thinking about. As far as social and emotional skill development, schools play a critical role, according to the CDC, in supporting the whole child, not just their academic achievement. And in addition to a structure for learning, schools provide a stable and secure environment for developing social skills and peer relationships. Healthy behavior and depression is another area that they want us to consider. Extended closures can be harmful to children's mental health and can increase the likelihood that children engage in unhealthy behavior. And they go on to suggest that an environment where students feel safe and connected, such as a school, is associated with lower levels of depression, thoughts about suicide, social anxiety, and sexual activity. And they also talk about having, if you're in school, much higher levels of self-esteem due to your interactions socially and your achievement levels. Reduced special services. This is extremely important in our school district. For children with intellectual or physical disabilities, nearly all therapies and services are received through the schools. These vital services are difficult to provide through distance learning models. As a result, more children with disabilities have received few to no services while schools have been closed, a significant consideration for us as a school community. Protection from neglect. The CDC has statistics about extended school closures and how they may deprive children who live in unsafe homes and neighborhoods of an important layer of the protection that schools provide, as well as physical, sexual, and emotional maltreatment abuse that sometimes takes effect when kids are not in schools. The document further talks about the nutritional health and states that 30 million children in the United States participate in the National School Lunch Program. And we have many students within our school district who participate in our lunch program as well as our breakfast program. Physical activity is another area that the CDC wants us to consider. And it talks about that when schools are closed, we lose access, or students lose access to important opportunities for physical activity. And many children may not receive sufficient physical activity when they're not in school. So as the CDC and the AAP talk about getting kids back to school, they're also suggesting that there are some considerations that need to be, that play a role in this, in addition to the COVID health factors. So there are some statistics about young people, adolescents under the age of 18. This is from the CDC as well. And what I wanted to point out here is that the source from this is July 23rd, 2020. So this is new data from last Thursday. And last Thursday's CDC statistics indicate that 7% of all COVID-19 confirmed cases are among adolescents, and 0.1%, 0.1% of all COVID-19 related deaths fall in the adolescent age of under 18. So these statistics are kind of helping school districts have a clearer understanding from the national perspective, the world perspective, so to speak, on how things are impacting students when it's related to COVID. And they have some data here that is comparative that I thought would be important to kind of give people a sense of how COVID relates to some other issues. In 2004 until 2019, flu-related deaths ranged from 37 in our country to 187, depending on the year within those years. H1N1 pandemic that lasted 18 months, students that were adolescent age, there were 358 deaths. In the time period that we have had COVID-19 pandemic, there have been 64 deaths among adolescents in our country. And so these statistics by the CDC are what are helping them give us some guidance on why we should come back to schools. That's their considerations. And then the statistics here on health kind of give us some comparisons about how kids are reacting to COVID related to some of the other things that we've dealt with in our nation's history. This is something else that I think is important because I went on the CDC today, and we definitely are concerned about our students, and that is our #1 priority. But we also have another subset of individuals who are going to be coming into our buildings that we need to pay special attention to, and these are the professional staff members that will be working with our students. And so at the bottom, where my cursor is right now, the source is today, July 27, 2020, COVID data tracker. Now, I know that we have more cases than 3,184,000 in the United States, but this is the most up-to-date collection of data that was presented today on their website. So I don't want to have a political statement here, and I certainly am not a doctor or an epidemiologist, and so I'm just suggesting that we do need to be mindful of our staff. And so cases by sex in the United States, 51%, all ages of all people who have had COVID, 51.6 female, 48.5 male. Of the 113,928 deaths when this data was calculated, 46.1% were female, 53.9% were male. Now, cases by age are here, and I highlighted in yellow the ranges of our teaching and our staff, our other staff along in the school district. And so in these areas where 0 to 4, 1.5% of all cases reside in that age group. From 5 to 17, 5.4% of all cases of COVID reside there. These are the numbers that are associated with the age of staff within our school district that is employed. When we then go over to this area, that is 84.4% of all of these numbers is equivalent to our staff based on cases by age. When we shift over to this column now and we take the same numbers, you can see that with deaths by age level, you can see where the numbers fall again. And so this 41.4% is where, again, our staff resides. What's important for me and what is a consideration for me, and I'm certain the Board of Education, is that we have 503 staff members that are employed in the district between the ages of 50 and 70. And we have 15 members who are older than that. So though it's important for us to be considering students, it's also for us to be considering the adults and the visitors to our buildings. And so I wanted to make sure that people out there know that we are mindful of that as well. The state risk levels, we've gone over that the last time. As we think about those numbers that I had just talked about and you consider the risk levels in the state, we're all aware now, all of us are aware of the levels of yellow, orange, red, and purple and how that is distributed across the state, and the fact that the governor is using 7 specific items to determine what level communities are in as part of his leadership in our state. And the next slide is what we are doing here at the school district. And our current level is red, and this presents the highest degree of difficulty for boards and superintendents across the state to make decisions about learning models that we have in place or that we would like to use. And this requires that we take a deep dive into the local data that we have. Now, the last time I presented, I'm putting my cursor on changes in learning plans will be determined by the current risk level in specific zip codes served by Forest Hills School District. I want to say tonight that that thinking is important because it's a local consideration, but it is not the sole determining factor in whether or not we would have any particular instructional model in place. And that was put on the slide by me because at the time that was a local thing that I was taking a close look at. But there are many, many other factors that we have to consider. And we have to draw attention to this because it speaks to our local situation, again, but many other factors are included. And some of those factors we delve into on Friday mornings with our local officials. And I'll talk about those in a few minutes. But here's where we are as of the 26th, taking a look at Forest Hills, the attendance areas that we serve against the rest of the state and the rest of the county. So the AAP, or the American Academy of Pediatrics, says based on your local information, and both they and the CDC and the governor's office and the Ohio health officials say, go to your local health officials and have collaborative arrangements. But the AAP comes out with some recommendations that go a little bit deeper than the CDC because they're talking about students. So other mitigation factors, other things that come into the decision as to what models we're going to put into place are the ability for us to be able to do the things that are on this particular slide. So do we have cleaning and disinfectant plans for our high touch surfaces? And yes, we do, and we've presented that in our FAQs and on our district website. Will we be washing hands? Absolutely. We're going to be reminding kids that washing hands, and adults, is one of the significant ways to reduce COVID or the spread of any type of infection, whether it be a cold, flu, COVID, any other infection. Washing hands is a primary opportunity to avoid some of the infection. Desks 3 to 6 feet apart. This has been a significant amount of our work over the last few weeks, and it will continue to be a significant amount of our work because, and I will explain that in a few minutes when I get to another slide, but the goal is to have desks or students' heads being 3 feet to 4 feet away from each other, and the primary goal, obviously, is to be 6 feet apart. We want to try to have fewer students and staff in classrooms, and we'll talk about the virtual model in a little bit and how that's impacted the ability to have fewer students in the building. We talk about teachers moving more than they used to and students staying predominantly in sections of the building, and talking about blocking kids in certain areas and maintaining single rooms or not being in multiple rooms across the day. That's an easier thing to do in the elementaries. As you get into the high school, it becomes a more difficult thing, but we've been talking about that with our high school principals, and we'll be talking about that as we move forward in collaborative discussions with our association leaders. Lunches at desks. Now the CDC and the AAP are talking about having lunches at a student's desk. We worked with our local officials. And we came up with a collective opinion for Forest Hills that it would be best if we went to the lunchroom to avoid the rodents that are attracted to the building if we're not able to get every crumb out of every corner, as we're spending a lot of our time on surfaces and doorknobs and all of the other places. Now, certainly we're sweeping floors and all of that, but we don't want to invite additional problems into our building if we can avoid it. So what we can do is say that in our lunches and in other rooms, in our cafeterias, in other rooms where we're having lunches, that we can in fact say that students who are not wearing masks will be 6 feet apart. We can use our outdoor spaces when possible to have students go into free-flowing air spaces. All of our facilities have courtyards. They all have spaces that are protected, fenced for kids so that the safety factors, the typical safety factors of cars and other things that take place, they can be mitigated by using our facilities appropriately that way. And we would be talking to teachers about how to best do that. mask for all adults and older children. And the older children part has changed over time into us requiring all of our children to wear masks, very much in line with what the governor is asking us to do as adults when we're outside of our homes, when we go into establishments. We believe that masks are a primary mitigation tool, and therefore we're asking for all of our students on buses, in schools, to be wearing masks. And we've talked about arrangements where we can have mask management, where we can assure that there is enough distance for a student to be able to have sort of a break. But I'm telling you, I'm respectfully saying that we are going to be vigilant about the wearing of masks within our schools. And then the flexibility to be able to go virtual if the virus spikes, or to go remote if the virus spikes. And we have we have shared plans that we would be able to accomplish this. So the next slide, our Forest Hills mitigation plans. You know, specifically, we are working with our Hamilton County officials for all of our plans. And I want to shout out to Greg Kesterman, who is the Commissioner of Health in Hamilton County. He and his staff have been very helpful to us. And in fact, they have assigned a contact tracer to each district to help if we have a particular individual or individuals who have symptoms of COVID or who have confirmed symptoms. So we have our own assigned person that will be available to us as a school district to give us guidance if and when something like that was to happen. So the mitigating factors that we're really working on, those desks and that furniture for students' heads to be 3 feet apart, that district-wide operational goal for 6 feet at every chance we can make that happen, and not only for students, more important for adults to be able to have space between themselves and their students, space as they're doing other work in office areas and custodial work throughout the building, where they can maintain that 6-foot distance, because the vulnerability for adults for the infectious disease is at a higher level, obviously, based on information that I just spoke about. That lunchroom distance, 6 feet, is going to be the mandatory, no bending on that one. Cloth face masks. This is another issue. They need to be cloth face masks. From what we're hearing, the disposable face mask, although we will have them available and we will certainly ensure that kids have a face mask if they forget it or drop it or something like that happens, we will be doing those types of things. But the recommendation and the requirement, so to speak, is that all students will wear their face mask, and we will have breaks when it is safe and when it is appropriate. And for staff, it will be all face masks all day long. Face shields have been a discussion, and I know that a few weeks ago, based on my own commentary, I had thought that face shields could be an option used a bit more than I do at this particular point because of the new information that has been presented to us and the new mandates that have been provided to us by the state. Students have always had the option, if they are IEP or have a health-related issue, to be able to wear a shield, but that must be approved through one of these two methods. And when that is in place, we also have to ensure that there is a 6-foot barrier or a 6-foot distance. So this isn't something that's going to just happen very easily. This has to be health related, and it must be IEP related. And an IEP, for those of you who aren't aware, it's an individual education plan for students with disabilities. A face shield might be needed if they were visually impaired, or if they were hearing impaired, or they absolutely needed to be able to see a person's mouth to be able to learn from that person. Staff, it must be, it's got to be HR approved. It's a student IP or a health related issue, but the bottom line there is that it has to be approved by the Human Resources Department. Other things that we're doing, and the question has come up What do we do if a student or a staff member suspects that they have or they do have COVID, a confirmed case? So on the district's website, there is protocol to be able to determine what to do during this particular situation. And we've provided this information, again, on our website to anybody who wants to read it and see it a little bit closer and more in depth. But if you have a confirmed case, or we believe there's a confirmed case, the principal must be notified, or the supervisor must be notified. And this is where, you know, I heard on the radio the other day that in another state in the country, some kids went to a party, so COVID was passed around because they were involved in unhealthy choices. They did not want to tell people that they were there. And so the COVID surge spiked very quickly there because they were not telling where they had been and who they had been with. We must depend on each other. The school and the teachers within the school and the staff within the school are serious about the safety of not only the children but themselves, and so we need to be notified. There will be a 14-day quarantine from the date of confirmation. Anybody who is displaying symptoms, not confirmed, but if you're displaying them, you come to school, you begin to have a headache, you get nauseous, or you have a sniffly nose, or other things that are related to COVID, we need to notify the principal as soon as we can, or the supervisor. And it's okay. All of us get sick. It's nothing that is a bad thing. It's a bad thing if we don't let people know. Anytime someone's in harm's way, whether it's COVID or bullying or anything like that, we want to let people know so that we can act appropriately. So we need to notify the principal, we need to notify the supervisor. Those individuals need to exclude themselves. We contact parents. We don't set them on the outside of the school or anything like that, but we're going to pull them from the normal circumstance, take them to a place where they can be comfortable until they can be picked up by a parent. And they cannot come back to school until they are, if they don't have a confirmed case, they can't come back unless it's been 72 hours fever-free, and there are some specifics there for people to take a look at. And then in close contact. So close contact, if I was in a classroom and someone next to me received a confirmed case of COVID, then within a close contact means that I've been next to them within 6 feet for 15 minutes, 48 hours prior to their testing. So a child says or is confirmed case of COVID, or a teacher has a confirmed case of COVID. When they have that confirmed case, the contact tracing goes back 48 hours. If you were within 6 feet of that person for 15 minutes, then you need to be on a 14-day quarantine from the last exposure. And these things get really technical as we start talking about CDC and AAP requirements and how all this stuff gets put together. So there's a pretty big burden on the school district right now to be able to get information, utilize information, and follow protocol. Again, with guidance from our health officials and the contact tracer that is going to be assigned to our school district. So this is what happens if we have a confirmed case. I go on further, the process if a person is sick. What do we do with the building? Well then, if we have a confirmed case, we have to close off the areas used by the person who was sick the moment we find out. We have to open outside doors and windows to increase air circulation in that area. We need to wait 24 hours so that we are safe, we don't have employees entering an unsafe area before we clean or disinfect. And if we don't have 24 hours, it's not feasible, we need to wait as long as possible. So in this case, if a student had COVID at 9 a.m. in the morning, or a staff member did, and we needed to evacuate the room, I think that if we had that room clean before the next 9 o'clock hour, that wouldn't be 24 hours, but we would be able to do that because it might not be feasible. Now, if we have another location and we don't want to put people in those rooms and we can make that happen, we would never go in under the 24-hour if we had another location of which we could place the students. So clean and disinfect all areas used by the person who is sick, such as offices, bathrooms, common areas, shared electronic equipment like tablets, touchscreens, keyboards, remote controls. So we need to then go back and find out where that individual has been in the building, and we need to disinfect. Now, our EPA guide for cleaning and disinfecting, we're using that. It comes from the EPA. That is a 6-step guide. That 6-step guide talks about reading directions, pre-cleaning surfaces, following contact time, making sure we're wearing the appropriate gloves, and that we lock up all of our cleansing materials. And all of this needs to be done, obviously, with the person wearing gloves and appropriate PPE equipment to be able to clean surfaces. So we not only have processes for what happens if a person is confirmed, we have the ability to be able to clean, and we have the EPA guidelines for how we're going to clean. And these EPA guidelines will also be shared with our staff members who are teachers and other individuals who are not on our custodial or who are not on our maintenance teams. The next slide is next steps. So at this particular point in time, hopefully I've been able to share what we're doing as far as the traditional startup of the school year and some of the things that we are using, multiple factors being used, and Friday mornings with Hamilton County superintendents as well as health officials from the area. That's where we get into a little bit more localized information about our schools. That zip code is a portion of that, but it is not the determining factor. It is a portion of how we would make a decision. So what are some things that we're dealing with right now that we need to get ourselves aligned for as we work towards the opening of the school year? Well, how many students signed up for our virtual model? Because in a big portion of what we were doing, virtual was a significant player in that, because it helps define how many students and staff are left in the traditional model and how we would be able to cover all of that. So in our school district, about 12% of our students, 878 out of the 7,300 that we have, signed up for virtual model. About 20 to 30% of comparative school districts is what signed up. So we're at 12%, meaning about 88% of our parents and students want to come back to the school. They believe that the school is the best place for the children. And because we have 12% and other schools have 20 to 30%, it does present some challenges to us. And our survey information a few months ago that told us to prepare for virtual had a little higher percentage of people who felt like they would want to take the virtual. So unlike full remote, where every student is assigned to a teacher and a subject, virtual is basically creating a 10th school in our school district, but we employ the same number of teachers and staff members. As such, we are trying to cover all of it locally. We're trying to cover all of the content locally. And to do that, there are a couple of things that have happened. For example, when we have the same number of staff, but we have added a virtual component, we are going to be stretching our staff to cover those things. And what we were hopeful for and what we had modeled is that the virtual choices would be able to have us have numbers of class, would enable us to have classes, full-size classes, where teachers could be assigned to them. So at our high school, where we have over 100 courses that students can choose, very few have had enough signups to run full classes that are virtual. And so what we're finding is that the selections that kids originally would have had are difficult to cover in the remote or in the virtual, because they're not broken up evenly. We may have students at one high school that have 5 kids out of a course that's only offered once, and it has 22 students in it. And so to have a virtual class as well as a traditional class is problematic. So we have to do things like look at what both high schools are doing, and are there classes that are similar, or excuse me, that are the same, that we can combine and maybe do some things that way. And our elementaries, for example, where this virtual model has presented a challenge to us, is that if you are in a 4th grade and there are 4 classes in that particular elementary and 17 students sign up for the virtual, and you are spreading 7 to 8 students then across the other 3 classes, what you have now is a class of 17 virtually, and you have classes that have leaked up into the 22 to 23 for the traditional or the face-to-face. And when we talked about mitigation factors, that starts to play a big role in the ability to distance students when you are increasing potentially the numbers in those classes. Now, I don't want to be alarming, because we are out there measuring every room. We are looking at all of our furniture. We are adjusting furniture. We're doing a lot of mitigation things to try to ensure that our kids are going to be at an appropriate distance based on the AAP guidance. But I can tell you that right now it is a very complex exercise that we are involved in. And in our middle school, we have similar situation as we have in the elementary, is how best to schedule. We have 129 students that signed up for virtual in the middle school, and so the same situations that we see in the elementary present themselves at the middle school, because they don't have as many options or selections as the high school has. In our school, and so as we take a look at those things, if we go back up here, you see that we're trying to localize this. And what do I mean by that? We have been for 4 months taking a look at online curricular options for our children, but those online curricular products are expensive, and they require that our students are going to be taught mostly by another teacher outside of our school system, because they're online products. Now, we can have our teachers monitor, and that could influence the price of that. But again, we're trying to localize, or trying to cover the instructional models with our own students. When you think about staffing in our school district, we have we have less than 10 staff members in our school district who present a significant health issue that will prevent them from being able to come to work. There are about 40 staff members who would like the option of teaching virtual. We may not be able to have all 40 of those be able to get virtual, because of the discussion I had a couple of moments ago, where our virtual selections were not as large as we anticipated that they would be, which causes some staffing stretches for us. Devices are another issue in our school system, which has always been part of the equation. Can we get enough devices? Can we get enough bandwidth? Can we get enough access for our students? And we continue to monitor that and continue to try to make purchases that mitigate the issues of students whose families may not have computers in the house, or may not have hotspots where they can access the instructional material. One thing that I neglected to say when I was back up here, a lot of the responsibility for the virtual, as I talked about, is about us trying to accommodate all of the needs and all the complexities that are associated with that. We had talked about earlier in our process, if you choose virtual, it will be much like the traditional model, but you may not be able to get every selection because of the reasons I just spoke of right now. And so that's something that I wanted to say tonight, that we're still working on that. And all of this needs to be balanced with that safety and precautionary information that I talked about earlier. So right now in our school district, after recommending that we go back to a traditional face-to-face model, we've been able to work through all of that with all the mitigation things and the safety, and there are a lot of things to consider in that, and a lot of work is still yet to be done, as it is in any school district in the state of Ohio. We also have the safety issues, the health issues that present themselves, and the curricular issues. Can we offer the Forest Hills quality in this difficult time period? And I would say we're doing everything we can to make that happen. There will be some gaps, and we'll work individually with students, with parents and teachers to discuss them and make the best decisions we can to offer the best circumstances for all students. So our next steps in all of this is that we are going to be meeting, and that'll start again tomorrow. We have been meeting, but we're going to have some decision meetings over the next few days about what types of instructional practices can we have, what works for our teachers, what works for our students. We need to continue with our communication with parents, and we'll continue with a telephone call from me and additional information that will be posted on our district's websites. We need to ensure that our teachers have a sense and knowledge about what they're going to be teaching, who they're going to be teaching, where they're going to be teaching, and all of the other associated issues that that accompany a year like the one we're going to be having. We need to ensure that our custodial and our maintenance staff's needs are met, and that we have everything in place for them to be able to prepare the facilities and for them to be able to clean the facilities the way that some of the guidelines are talking about, given the COVID-19 issues. And we need to consistently look at materials and technology that may need to be purchased along the way. So that's where we are right now with our reopening of schools. And I would be happy if Greg or Mike or Alana had any additional information to provide, that they would do so. And the four of us are happy to answer any questions that the board members might have.
Scott, thanks. I want to just take a few minutes just to commend. There's quite a few folks that are working diligently all throughout the summer trying to solve a very challenging puzzle in a cost-effective manner that delivers a high-quality Forest Hills education for all of our students. And you know, none of us, I think, wish any of this on the entire pandemic on any of us, but it's a problem that we are working to solve so that we can, again, maintain high-quality educational experiences for our kids. But I know that the entire teaching and learning team and the entire business operations department and our treasurer and superintendent and all of our building leaders and principals and assistant principals are working daily throughout the entire summer, putting forth quite a bit of effort trying to solve a very challenging puzzle. And I just want to thank them for their work. We will continue to knock pieces out each day to get a little bit closer. But again, our goal is the safety of our staff, safety of our students, and then still providing that high quality Forest Hills educational experience.
Just to piggyback on what Mr. Sears was saying, and I would agree with all of that. I've had many individual conferences with teachers and met with our custodians, and I can tell you that all of our teachers want to get back to normal. All of our custodians want to take care of our staff. How we go about that is the difficult part. And so I commend all of the teachers that I have talked to and their passion for how they're going to get back into the classroom. And some have very difficult situations. And as Greg said, none of us really asked for this, and we're just really trying to take care of our kids, take care of our staff in the best way possible. And I've had many good conversations with staff members, so thank you.
So I did all of that, but I forgot to thank all those people. A little nervous tonight, a lot going on, but I assure you that I care, I'm concerned, and I will do whatever is necessary to keep everybody safe and healthy and to have a quality education.
The only thing I was going to add is, I mean, I know for me personally, I'm ready for the kids to go back. My kids are ready to go back for the traditional. So we are very hopeful that comes to fruition. The virtual, I can see the difficulty because of the lower numbers. But what I wonder is, we have the lower side of it, but do other districts that are close, could they share? Like, do you know what I mean? If we only had 7 in a class, could you have that same subject that's taught in another district? Is there any way to give them the options of the classes that they really wanted, served by, for example, someone else, just in certain cases, especially like core classes? I don't know. You may already have that covered, but I don't know, because I go, are other people having that same, a little bit of difficulty? I don't know.
We do have the advantage of 2 high schools in our school district that can offset some of that. And we did talk today about our association with the Career Center and things that could potentially happen there. And I know that that's something that we are going to take a look at. But so there are some options like that. And I think, Mrs. Taylor, you're on to something there as we think about the future of education and we think about how we can offer kids quality instruction and do it in ways that are cost effective. I think that's a great idea. I'm just going to be honest, we are not there today, but that is a place that we need to really consider as we move into the next few years of education, given all of the technology that's available to us.
I had just a couple of comments, and before I say what I'm going to say, I want you all to know that this is not a negative reflection on anything that you have done. I know that you guys the teams, you all, the leadership are working so hard and in a situation that we've not faced before. But I would just be remiss if I didn't say that I'm growing more and more concerned as we move forward and get closer to the start date. You know, the MLB, right, they just started up, and then 4 days later now we've got a team work 14 or something like that. People are questioning, everything's postponed. You know, we're having these conversations at the university level throughout the area, not just at my university. And even some districts around us are saying, okay, we're going to start remote and try face-to-face mid-September seems to be about what I'm seeing. And it's just a comment because I know that we can't do anything about it. I just have, you know, I've talked to some teachers also. I know their fear is real. One of my very good friends just lost her 42-year-old sister out of the blue to COVID on Monday. A week ago Monday. You know, it's real and it's scary, and I know they have real fears, and I would just be remiss if I didn't say that I hear that, and I am just growing more and more uncomfortable. And you all probably are too, and you're doing the stuff that you're doing and working your magic. But I just really wanted to say that.
And also, I appreciate everything that you're doing. And I think one of the things that we've said all the way through on all of this is that the more things change, the more things change. So, I mean, we're going through with a plan, and you know, I appreciate all the work that's going in. And we all know that tomorrow the government could shut it all down, or they could open it all up. I mean, it's you know, I'm following all the numbers like everybody else in the hospital setting and things, and it's so much will be seen over the next month. And I think, you know, we're in a different spot than we were a month ago, in not a good way. But on the other hand, a month from now, you know, hopefully the things that we're doing as a community and as a society we'll start seeing the improvement from that. So you know, I appreciate, you know, everything. We've got a virtual option, we've got the in-person, which I think we all agree would be best, you know, without the virus. So it's, and Yeah, I appreciate the work that's done, and I'm cautiously optimistic, and we'll have to see. I mean, it's the women's soccer team, their league's doing fine. So there's Major League Baseball is not doing fine. So hopefully we'll be closer to the former than the latter. But I know it's a lot of work, and I appreciate everything everyone was done.
I just want to say that I trust the staff and the teachers, and I know that they're going to do everything in their power to take care of our children. And we just have to kind of take it day by day, week by week, and see what happens. But I'm trusting that all of the staff will work hard.
All right. Anything else? All right, we'll go on to item 6.3. Are there other updates from the superintendent? No? Okay. Then we'll move up to board discussion. Item 7.1, there's a delegate appointment for the OSBA annual business meeting on November 9th. This is something that for at least the past 10 years I've been on the board, Randy has been there anyway, going to all of those meetings. I just found out today that the OSBA meeting, the Capitol Conference now is virtual as well. The delegate basically goes and it goes over to people that really enjoy it, I'm sure it's very fascinating, but it tends to be somewhat of a dry meeting, at least in my experience. But is there someone who would like to be a delegate? I'm fine doing it, but if there's someone that wants to be a delegate, I'm wide open.
Forrest, I think you would be perfect.
Oh, that would be wonderful. So, okay. Is there
I would
someone
be your backup.
There you go. Great. So we have an alternate. So we have a delegate and alternate. Would someone like to make a motion for that?
Sure, I make a motion that Forrest Heiss will be our delegate and our alternate will be Patty Taylor for the district at the annual business meeting of the Ohio School Boards Association.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
Sorry.
Ms. Cropper? Yep, still need to unmute. There you go.
Yeah, sorry. Ms. Choice,
Yes.
Dr. Rasmussen,
Yes.
Mrs. Taylor,
Yes.
Dr. Heights.
Well, even if I said no, it's already passed, but yes, that will be good. Okay, item 7.2, board discussion. Any items for board discussion tonight?
I had something I wanted to say, and it's about the Anderson High School mascot. So hold back the daggers for a second. This is difficult. We voted to change it because we decided, that it is a divisive issue in our community. And I'm struggling to understand how we are justifying continuing its use in situations where it's optional. Anecdotally, I've heard from a couple of people. One said not to say their name, but I could say their situation. It's an incoming freshman who has is attending volleyball practice. And is hearing the, Go Skins chant happening. We're still showing the image when we could. Those are easy things. I know that we have, the main attention has been on reopening, as it should be. I completely understand that. But I think an email to simply get everyone on the same page about perhaps, in those optional situations, not amplifying it, essentially. So that's just a small, simple challenge to the board, Mr. Preble, and whomever else out there. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
So I received your email today on this, and I had a conversation with Mr. Fellows, and we went back to what we believe is a directive from the board, and certainly as we're working through it, that agreement at this point has been to have a steering committee come together and to have that steering committee develop its subcommittees and have those subcommittees begin to work on the process of changing the mascot. And in the interim, in places where it makes sense and it's fiscally or financially responsible, to make some of the decisions that you're talking about. But that we would not be able to extract all portions of the redskin in the first year, because we can't do that without having the committees do their work, the subcommittees do their work. Now, on caricatures, Rob and I talked about today, we have a redskin emblem that by those who selected it and over the years was thought to be a noble and honorable mascot. And so that may not be able to be extracted from every place all at once. What Rob and I talked about today is the caricatures and other representations that are not that noble figure that people were thinking about. We are not pushing in one direction or another on the years of conversation over this. What we're trying to do is put the committee process in place, let the building principal, with supervision and interaction with the board president through weekly correspondence, and then that is also going to the full board, let you know where the committee is and how it's going. The goal is to eliminate as soon as we can, but we have a process that we are using. But Ram and I did talk today about those caricature type things. And we talked today about posts and about some other things that we could be mindful of so that we are in fact moving towards that ultimate goal that the board voted on. So that is my response to that. And certainly I am an agent of the board, and we will move forward with any redirection to what I just said, and we can make that happen. It's my understanding at this point that the board wants the steering committee to kind of lead this process.
Yeah, and I don't think it should happen overnight. I know that it's not. We were all, I think everybody was on the same page of that. That was the best practice I identified in my research.
Right.
As well. I just mean like the optional things that are, as you mentioned, like a social media post or, you know, the chants in the tomahawk chop and those sorts of things. Like those are not optional, and there's no cost attached to it. We just stop doing it. And yeah, so I just wanted to throw that out there. I understand that the committees are in charge of it. I'm glad that Rob and those committees will take the lead on it. But unfortunately, you're going to hear, at least for me, say like, well, do we need to keep doing this if we don't have to, and there's an alternative and it costs nothing? You know, we don't. The student I talked about, that person's a freshman. That's not going to be her mascot, and she's coming in saying like, I don't want to be hearing "Go Skins," and we made that decision. So again, I don't think that's a big ask on my part. I'm not suggesting that we redo the committees or what we voted on, and by any means. But I think that we need to be more mindful of some of those things that are moving forward, and I'm gonna say that I think if I see that, but I also am aware that we have this situation that we're dealing with to reopen. I'm not asking for anything major. I don't think. I think it's just, you know, let's get on the same page about what we're going to be doing moving forward and what is optional essentially. So. But I appreciate that. Thank you.
So I'll just put my 2 cents in. I see it as a transition, and that's what we're going through right now. And I'm willing to let the committees do their work. I want this. I like this to be a school representation of, and the committees have had 2 meetings. They're getting going with it. I'm providing as best I can, just my support as a board member, saying, yeah, I appreciate the work that they're starting to do and what they're going to have to do over the next, whether it's 3 months to a year, of the transition through that. So it's, for the people that want it to go faster, I asked for grace to let the committee to do the work. For people who wanted to go slower, I asked for grace to let the committee do their work. So there's people on both sides of this that have competing interests, but we're trying to get the boat going and make it a good thing for everybody. So.
Right, and am I correct when I say the committee that they just met and decided who's going to be on what subcommittee? Right, so it's just, process is barely.
It just started. We had the second meeting, or they had the second meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, moving on to business operations.
I'm sorry.
Forrest.
I just had,
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Nope. Go back.
Dee Dee, you can go.
Patty, go ahead.
I just wanted to acknowledge members of GAP, Greater Anderson Promotes Peace, and they presented the board with a beautiful long banner that was signed by lots of members of the community, thanking the board members for their work. So thank you to GAP.
Okay. Patty?
The only thing I wanted to bring up was from last month. I think are we going to try to change our meetings to in person going forward for the official board ones?
Yes, I was going to bring that up at the end, but yes, at least I think our goal, assuming that we're all on board with that, would be, and this is actually a good place to pull it up, is that for our August 24th meeting, that'll be right on the eve of full go, hopefully, that we'll have a live meeting, we'll have an in-person meeting. I would. On this evening, it's technically scheduled for Nagel. I think that I will put it on Scott and Mike to determine what the best place is for that. It may be that we need to use a bigger place, and we'll figure out the logistics of that. But yes, I agree. I think, Patty, I think that from or for our August meeting, if we have everybody in our schools, that we will also be in our schools and moving forward. Does that sound good to everybody?
Sounds good to me. The only thing is there any possible way to keep producing this so that people can watch? I think we have had substantial increase in viewing, which I think is a positive thing. Is it possible?
I will get on with Steve Meese and figure out. I don't know if this works. I mean, we're all looking into a screen. I don't know how that would transition to a live meeting, but if there's some type of way of doing it. Scott, you unmuted yourself.
I'm interested in doing it for a small fee for those who would like to watch.
Okay.
Try to get our membership up really high. I want to agree with what we've seen. The interest level has been very good using this methodology because people can watch and they don't necessarily have to give up the entire evening. They give up the portion of the meeting. So I think we are going to continue to look for opportunities to expand the individuals who can participate in the meeting, but we need to get back as quickly as we can to the regular way of the board's typical monthly meeting.
I think that, and I think we talked about that with. It's nice that right now we have 232 people participating or at least watching us right now. At our Friday meeting, Friday at 7 a.m., we had over 600 people attending that meeting. So, which is great. I mean, that's especially the way we're doing it right now with the getting back into school, and there's a lot of interest in the things that we're talking about. So, to be able to still provide that information without forcing everyone to come into a building, I think, or take the time out of their schedule to do it. It's a lot easier to leave a meeting after they're done when they just have to unclick. So, but no, that's good. So that'll be our plan, and we'll have more information, I would say, as we get closer to it. And it may be something too that we just reach out to see what the level of interest is as far as people attending in person. I would anticipate social distancing. I would anticipate masks. I would anticipate all the things that we know about that we're doing in our schools, that we also carry that over to our meetings. So, sounds good. All right, anything else? All right, item 8.1, calendar revision. I think Mr. Eckert, or maybe Mike.
I'm going to go ahead and hop in there. This is normally the part in live meetings where people get up and leave. So the nice thing about video is they maybe they're staying.
We're already
So
down to
8.2.
Go ahead.
8.1, item 8.1 is the 2020-2021 calendar revision. This revision for this school year reflects a new start date of August 27th, 2020, August 27th, 2020 for students in grades 1 through 12. Preschool and kindergarten phase-in days will be announced by building. So again, that's grades 1 through 12, August 27th of 2020. Preschool and kindergarten phase-in days will be announced by buildings. The superintendent recommends the board approve the revised 2020-2021 district calendar as shown in the attachments. And moving on to item 8.2, this is the 2021-2022 district calendar adoption. It is a motion to approve the 21-22 district calendar as presented per Ohio Revised Code 3313.48B. A public hearing on the 2021-2022 district calendar was held on June 29th of 2020. The proposed draft of the 2021-2022 district calendar is attached, and the board has seen that. The superintendent recommends the board approve the 2021-2022 district calendar as shown in the attachment. And we will move on to item 8.3. Item 8.3 under business operations is a resolution to participate and authorize the Southwestern Ohio Educational Purchasing Council to advertise and receive bids for a school bus purchase. Currently, this would be a consortium that instead of Forest Hill School District going out for the bid price, this consortium would be able to do this for us. The reason we are doing this, there is a state grant out that would send Forest Hill School District around $30,000 towards the purchase of a school bus. School buses are right around $90,000, so it would be an investment of $60,000 for the district. This is no guarantee that we will be purchasing. It's just the ability to get the bid in case the district decides that is the direction they want to go. So the superintendent recommends the board adopt the resolution to participate and authorize the Southwestern Ohio Educational Purchasing Council to advertise and receive bids for school bus purchase as shown in the attachment. And if there are no questions, we'll move on to human resources. And the human resources report the board was shared with earlier. I will go through the items. Item A, retirement. The following has submitted a letter of resignation in order to retire, and that is Douglas Gibson, who's been a custodian at Turpin High School for 9 years, and we wish Douglas a happy retirement as he moves on from Forest Hill School District. Item B is, you will see we have 2 leave of absences. It's recommended the board approve the following requests for unpaid leave of absence per the terms of referenced reasons. Item C is an explanation, and we move on to item D, that are changes to assignment or salary or step. The board sees that we have 3 individuals there. I would like to point out Jonathan Daniels, as part of our human resources, as the board recalls, last month, Jennifer Schaefer resigned from our HR specialist position. And as we went through the process, Jonathan Daniels currently is our assistant transportation supervisor. And as we went through the interviews and Jonathan showed interest, it's one of those where you don't know what you have internally sometimes until you do. And Jonathan has a Bachelor of Science in accounting with a minor in human resources. And as we went through the interviews, he was a perfect fit as he's been working with the majority of our classified staff to begin with, and he will be working with our classified staff as well as our coaches and a myriad of other things that we have him do. So Angela Johnson, the other HR specialist, and myself are very excited to welcome Jonathan Daniels to HR. For item E, it is recommended that the following personnel be appointed for the 2020-2021 contract year or as listed for the position indicated at a salary in accordance with the adopted salary schedules. You can see we've got one certified staff, which would be a halftime kindergarten teacher at AIR, which is Megan Ashby. Megan was with us last year at Mercer and did just a fantastic job, and we're excited that we're able to keep her as a 0.5 kindergarten teacher. The classified staff, as you go through the list, these are all replacements of resignations. So these were all positions that we had prior. Item F are special services appointments. As you read through those, item G is the student teacher and interns. I can tell you that student teachers, we have been a little more stringent on approving student teachers just based on what's happening with the pandemic and making sure that our cooperating teachers are prepared for that in any situation. Item H, substitute personnel. Again, we're just developing a bank of substitutes should we have a need for any substitute in those positions. Item I is the human resources specialist exempt 3 job description. We wanted to take advantage of the fact that we are hiring that position to update the job description. So that's just an update of the job description. Item J, salary schedules. You will see substitute teaching salary schedule, academic supplemental salary schedule, and the athletic supplemental salary schedule. There are no increases in those supplementals in the listing. And item K deals with our athletic supplementals and our marching band supplemental. For the supplemental contracts of employment that require pupil activity permits, which is athletics and the marching band, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent school building and facility closures that may occur, the administration requests the approval to pay 1/2 of the amount of the supplemental activity contracts of employment for fall athletic and marching band activities. If the season reaches the halfway point based on the regular season games for that particular sport, the full supplemental will be paid. Marching band will follow the varsity football schedule. And I say that after having spoken with our marching band directors. They felt that that was appropriate as we move forward. And since the regular board meeting of July 10th, 2020, the FTE has remained the same at 787.64. The reconciliation of FTE between 2019, 2020, 2021 will be presented at the October 2020 board meeting, and we will have an HR committee meeting before that. As we move into the next school year, we'll review FTEs with that committee. So the superintendent recommends that the board approve the personnel items as listed, and that ends the human resources report. I think you're still muted, Dr. Heiss.
Yep. Any questions on that? We'll move on to, okay. Yep, okay. Item 10.1, business and marketing education course of study. I believe that's.
Yeah, so item 10.1, business and marketing course of study was completed earlier this year. The course of study was presented at the June 29th Board of Education meeting and has been available for review. And so it is included into this agenda, and as a result, superintendent recommends the board approve the business and marketing education course of study as shown.
All right. Item 10.2.
Any questions? 10.2 is a family and consumer science course of study. Very similar to this course of study was completed in conjunction with the business and marketing course of study. And was presented at the June 29th Board of Education for the first reading, and it's been on review. And as a result, superintendent recommends the board approve the family and consumer science course of study as shown.
All right.
And 10.3 is a contract with Miami Valley Christian Academy to use auxiliary funds for technology support. The purpose of this is to renew technology support through SMHT Consulting for Miami Valley Christian Academy. The cost is $50,000. It is through auxiliary funds that we receive for the purpose of non-publics. So they can use programming and federal funding that will enable them to fund different initiatives. This meets the requirements in the auxiliary fund usage. So the superintendent recommends the board approve the attached quote for SMHT Consulting to Miami Valley Christian Academy for contracted IT services from September 1 of 2020 through May 30th of 2021. This will be fully funded with auxiliary funds that are housed in the Forest Hills School District.
Okay, any questions? Item 11.1.
Good evening, everyone. I have multiple contracts and agreements for your approval this evening. I will add that there are no additional agencies or services from past years that are a part of this agenda. And as you can see, we included our purpose and our cost for each of them. I'm sharing that up front because of the multiple contracts that we have here. Some are related to special education or ESL services, or specific to district services across the grade levels. And I'll try to go through each one so that if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. 11.1 is a motion to approve a Child Focus Incorporated Service Agreement. This is an agreement that provides 4 full-time child therapists to 8 of our 9 school buildings. And the Medicaid is also reduces some of these costs. Currently, this agreement is funded by the wellness grant that we received this past year, as well as going into 2021. The 9th building that is covered through Child Focus is being funded by our foundation. And so we thank the foundation for supporting us with that therapist through the campaign they ran back in the fall. For 11.2, we have the Hamilton County Educational Service Center agreement, and this is to support services to our non-public school, IHM. And this is actually funded through federal funds that pay for these services. Most of them are along the lines of special education to serve their students with disabilities at IHM. And these are specific allocations through federal funds that are directed through us to support IHM. 11.3 is a major contract with Hamilton County Educational, I'm sorry, this is our Head Start agreement, 11.3. This is a program we've operated, federal program we've operated for a number of years for children ages 3 to 5. They do qualify for services due to low income. This program is located at Mercer Elementary. In the MOU, there is a note of what each of us is responsible for supporting between Hamilton County Educational Service Center and Forest Hills. I do want to add that the change here is a note that we removed transportation to this particular item, this particular MOU. 11.4 is a major contract with the Hamilton County Educational Service Center. And I attempted to provide earlier many of the services that Hamilton County does provide. Majority is related to special education services. We do have services that also support our English language learners, our teaching and learning, administrative services, early childhood, and then it goes into supporting our contracted personnel that support all of our special education, speech and language, occupational therapy, physical therapy. We also have a special education supervisor as part of this contract, and school psychological services. So it's a fairly large contract with Hamilton County. The 11.5 is healthcare process consulting. This particular contract supports our Medicaid reimbursement coordination. It helps us to participate in the Ohio Medicaid Schools program so that we are reimbursed for treatment of our Medicaid eligible students. And that is typically through our occupational speech, school psychological services, and nursing services. And they assist us with just about all of the coordination, billing, training, and compliance. And there is no change in the cost of those services from the previous year. Item 11.6 is Maxim Healthcare Services. This is a staffing agreement to be able to provide nursing care for students in our district that are medically fragile and require the level of medical attention to be able to participate in school. There's no change to this contract and no change to the cost for those services. 11.7 is a service agreement with Claremont County Educational Service Center, and this is to provide a hearing impaired supplemental support teacher to serve our students who are deaf or hearing impaired. There is no change in cost to this particular agreement either from the last school year. And currently, and I think I may have noted it, currently we have that support teacher in our district approximately 2 days a week. Item 11.8 is a service agreement with St. Joe's or Altercrest campus, who provide a crisis stabilization unit. St. Joe's is located in our district boundaries, so therefore we're responsible to provide the educational services to those residential students while they're in placement at St. Joe's. I've included that we have a cost that I've included here at the $66,938, and that's to support 2 educational aides or paraprofessionals. They refer to them as therapeutic educational specialists to support our 2 teachers that work over at Altercrest campus. If I'm going too fast, just please stop me. Item 11.9 is our Zello, formerly was Career Cruising a couple of years ago. This is to provide a career planning tool for our students in grades 2 through 12. We've included some of the supports there that are bulleted in the agenda. This is a district-wide contract for our students through student services that is also supported by many people in our district, including our school counseling team. I think I also included just the pathway that many of our students move through, and what's so great about this particular career planning tool is that it creates a pathway for our students from the very early elementary years all the way through, which is in some cases unique to some career planning tools that we have vetted pretty thoroughly. 11.10 is a resolution, and that means that this is specific to an individual student with a disability and a contract to provide services with Applied Behavioral Services, which is located over in Fairfax. And this supports a 12-month placement for special education students at ABS. 11.11 is another resolution to support placement for a student out at the Westchester campus through ABS as well. And it also supports a 12-month placement. I think I have included that there was a reduction in the Fairfax placement, a pretty significant reduction, and there was an increase that I've noted here in the agenda for the Westchester placement. Item 11.12 is another resolution to contract with the Children's Home of Cincinnati. And this is to support students placed there in either their lower or their upper school. And this is a placement to support students with severe behavior or emotional needs. There is no tuition increase for this particular contract, and they do serve a number of our students. This is also a 10-month placement contract or a school year contract. The next 11.13 is a resolution to contract with the Children's Home of Cincinnati, but this is with their Height Center program. They're still affiliated with the Children's Home. The Height Center is a high school program that specializes in programs for students with autism. There's been no change to the tuition. They serve a number of our students as well, and it is a 10-month contract. Item 11.14 is another resolution to contract with Linden Grove School for the 2021 school year. There was a error in the purpose listed here. This is a contract that supports a 10-month placement for a special education student, and cost has not changed. I think I've included the information about Linden Grove to you. 11.15 is a resolution to contract with Stepping Stones for the 2021 school year. This also supports students, a special education student, and this is for year-round services. There's been no tuition increase for this program as well. The superintendent recommends that the board approve the items as listed, 11.1 to 11.15.
The only comments I was going to make is the document you put together that recapped them all, I thought was fantastic. It really helped me go through the agenda, the contract, and then understand really what they were. From my understanding, basically all of these are mandated as best as I can tell. But that was super helpful, so I appreciate that.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 12.1, Treasurer's Report. Ms. Cropper?
Good evening. The Treasurer's Report starts with the donations over the past month. We received just over 1,500 from our donors during the past month. Agenda item B is the Statement of Board Accounts, which presents the all funds activity for our fiscal year, which just ended on June 30th, 2020. The general fund ended the year with a cash balance of $9.8 million, and all funds had a ending cash balance of $27.7 million. Moving on in the agenda, items C, D, and E are the revenues and expenditures for our general fund, which of course our general fund is what makes up our 5-year forecast fund. We finished the year within the projected cash balance that we just reviewed at our May meeting 2020, so we did meet our target there. Of course, that May forecast included $1.6 million in state revenue reductions, as well as nearly $200,000 in tuition and student fee refunds. So $1.7 million in revenue reductions from our November forecast to our May forecast. Of course, also since school was closed, we did have some expenditure savings. So all told, the year-end cash balance was down $821,000 from our November pre-pandemic forecast. But as you recall from our May meeting, we did go over a list of those reductions that we will be making forecast years in order to recover that cash balance. So kudos to the administrative team for getting together through attrition and through some other measures to come up with the cash to support the shortfall caused by the pandemic. Moving on, The bank reconciliation and investments are presented in agenda items F and G. We do have an appropriation adjustment to bring to you tonight in item H. These appropriations are being adjusted due to actual revenues exceeding what was originally estimated. Item I requests the board's approval to establish two funds which have recently been added to the state accounting system by the state auditor. The purpose of these funds are to record and report on receipts from the federal government related to the coronavirus relief stimulus package. With that, I respectfully request that the board approve agenda items 12.1A through 12.1I.
Any questions or comments? We'll actually have an agenda or a consent agenda from,
I think 8.1 it starts.
8.1. Okay, thank you. 8.1 through 12.1. I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
You got a second?
I'll second.
All right.
Sorry.
That's okay. You're good. Ms. Cropper?
Ms. Joyce,
Yes.
Dr. Rasmussen,
Yes.
Mrs. Taylor,
Yes.
Dr. Heights.
Yes. Now we get on to the reports to the Board of Education. First is the Anderson Economic Development Committee report. That's Ms. Barber, and she is out. Does anybody have any information on that? Nothing going on, okay. Finance Committee report.
We've not met since the last time I spoke about it.
Thorstell's Foundation report.
Yeah, Dee sent me a quick update. They are planning a socially distanced, safe event instead of the soiree this year, and details will be coming out this week about it.
Okay. Human Resources Committee.
We have not met.
Okay. So legislative liaison report, there's not a whole lot going on right now in the legislature because it's closed, except for, of course, the chairman of the House got arrested and is, I just read that tomorrow the Republicans are meeting and may oust him. So obviously a lot of other issues going on beyond public education issues in the House. None of his misdeeds were with or alleged misdeeds were with public education. It was all the nuclear power plant in Toledo. So, policy committee report. I don't believe there's been a policy committee meeting last month.
No.
Safety committee. We have not met since the last meeting. Teaching and learning committee.
We've not met since the last meeting.
The technology committee the same way. We're kind of in the summer session. Northville Teachers Association report. I think we might have Donna piping in. Adam, is that correct? Oh, there she is.
Yes, good evening. I know I wasn't able to be with you last month, so I have a couple items here that I'll update you on. First, I want to make sure I say to the powers to be here tonight that it goes, oh, can you hear me?
Yes, you're good.
So good evening to the board. I know I wasn't able to be with you last month, so I have a couple items here that I'll update you on. First, I want to make sure I say to the powers to be here tonight that it goes, oh, can you hear me?
Yes, you're good. Are you still there?
Yeah.
That was a heck of an echo.
Mhm.
You're on. We can hear you.
Okay, Forrest, can you hear me at this point?
Yes, I can.
All right, turn that off. I apologize. The work of COVID has created a lot of challenges and many, many hours of, yes,
You're still on.
okay, I apologize. I'm going to
You're
have
good.
to come out. I'm getting too big of an echo.
I think she said she was going to get out.
Yeah, I think she was watching on Facebook, which is if you have or the YouTube, I mean, so I think the YouTube was delayed some, so okay, let me just see if she's coming back. Okay, well, can everybody else hear me? It looks like everything froze up. Oh, she's back. Let's try again. All right, Donna, you're on.
Are you muted?
She's
Yep.
muted.
Yep, unmute. There you go.
Well, let's start again. My apologies, seriously. I've been sitting here and listening and had ready to go, and we've had a couple storms out this way, so I'm in and out with my internet, so I apologize. The work of COVID has created many, many challenges over the last weeks and months, and I know that there's been many hours of unforeseen discussions and meetings. And right now, I want to make sure I take a few moments for the board to understand that it's with a lot of gratitude and a lot of appreciation that I'm going to let you know that Mike Broadwater and Scott and Greg Sears and their team and Betsy and many, many of us have spent days and days of work trying to come up with solutions and to vet things through and to consider all the options. And I really do appreciate Scott's comments and words tonight. And I know it weighs heavily on him as we move forward together. As a board, those decisions often as we make them, as we do know with COVID, things change very quickly. So just with that being said, trying to work with people and dealing with emotions and how people feel about things and their students to children to families, it's a lot of pressure on our administration. It's a lot of pressure on the powers to be here as all of us are trying to make good decisions moving forward for our students as well as for our community as a whole. So with that, I want to focus on three things here tonight, which is local and county and state from the association side. Since COVID started, one of the most important things I can do with the association is to open up communication to allow them to have an opportunity to be heard. And a lot of times Mike Broadwater and I often speak about things and we talk about issues and very detailed items for our families and for our staff here in Forest Hills who are very dedicated to the school and want to come back. But locally, we have to be able to consider all the American Disability Act, so many, many items. So locally on FHCA's part, we have done numerous things to make sure we engage the teachers, to hear them, to make sure that we're listening to their needs, not only for medical issues, but also for the working environment, as well as working in the classroom during the weeks ahead. FHCA has been able to, on that level, we are very active in what they call Cincy 10, which is Southwest Ohio, which involves about 10 to 20 different school districts within this area. So we have a comparison ability to be able to talk and communicate on a regular basis. I know that Mr. Sears and Mr. Prebles and Mr. Broadwater, as well as many of us, have that chance to talk with other school districts to help us make good informed decisions. The association, though, brings with it the opportunity to also to engage on a legal aspect that helps as a cost savings to the school district, so that we can communicate and make sure that the work that we're doing is vetted in a legal format as well. On the state level, every week, just to make sure of that, I've been able to spend an hour and a half to 2 hours a week at state level meetings, Zoom calls with Scott DeMar, our president, who you had the chance to meet in February. But also that entitles us to about 166 to almost close to 400 presidents throughout Ohio who are coming together to share ideas, to share suggestions, to actually anything from teaching to safety to how we're conducting ourselves. And with that, I've seen lots of opportunities for me to bring to the table to work with the association here to help support the work that we're doing. As we move forward, it's imperative that we work together. I would extend FHA support to the board to consider the gift of time and to look at best practices as we return, which I believe that using all the data and different things that we're doing, but also we are also seeing changes from different school districts as they are approaching our restart with options to practice returning with smaller groups or pushing the start dates back. And I know that our team is considering many, many of those things. Being fluid in our process and keeping our student population at the front, but also it is imperative that the association and the school district work on the behalf of its employee base. Knowing where we're going sometimes is very unforeseen right now. And I can't thank the people that are on screen here with me enough, but from behind, it's also the association's role to help make sure that we're guiding and supporting the well-being of our people as well as our students and our community. In the days and weeks ahead, I know there's a lot of work to be done. And I know for me in the last couple months, I believe the powers here would tell you that, the superintendent and so forth would let you know that the association's really working together. I know we have tough decisions and making sure that I don't overextend or overstress some of these people. They're nervous and they want to do a great job. So with that, I want to thank you for your time, and I apologize for a little bit of tech problem coming in, but just like our teachers will do, and so will all of us as with the days ahead, it's always a little challenge as a teacher. So it's always a little point to be able to stay calm and move forward. And with that, I hope we're able to work together in that same direction. You have any questions?
Thank you. Any questions, anyone? Okay.
Thank you, Donna.
Yeah, we've got a lot coming up in this next month, that's sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we are on to the executive session. Before we go into executive session, I will reiterate what we talked earlier. Our next regular meeting of the Board of Education is on August 24th. We anticipate that it will be an in-person meeting. Judging by what we talked about here, I think we'll do our best to also stream it or somehow be able to get out to people who can't attend at the time. But and so right now it is at Nagel. We will obviously update it if we end up moving to a different place. But so with that, I do not anticipate any actionable items after the executive session. Can I get a motion for executive session?
Do we adjourn first?
No, we have a motion
Okay.
after executive session.
Okay. Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G1, I hereby move that the board adjourn to executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, compensation of a public employee or official.
All right, do I have a second?
Second. Oops, I can't do that.
No, you only.
Okay, help me out here, Patty.
I'll second the motion, Dee Dee.
Thank you.
I just didn't want to interrupt you again, Patty.
No, it's all good. I will say that that some people wonder. I've got this question in the past about what the when we make a motion, it seems overly broad or perhaps too wordy. We can thank attorneys for that. It used to be that, we just said what we were going to go into, and then if you missed one word or whatever, they would come after you. So now that's why it is a word for word: employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, compensation of a public employee or official, because that way it's covered it and that keeps all the attorneys happy. So Ms. Cropper, can you call the roll?
Ms. Joyce,
Yes.
Mrs. Taylor,
Yes.
Dr. Rasmussen,
Yes.
Dr. Heights.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. All right, welcome back. We are back into our regular board meeting. Again, with technical difficulties coming back on, I will say that Dee Dee did participate fully in the executive session, but getting back on is a perpetual problem. So anyway, but we have a quorum. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the July 27th Board of Education meeting.
I will second that.
All right, so our meeting is on August 24th, and as I mentioned before, will likely be an in-person meeting. Ms. Cropper, please call the roll.
Mrs. Taylor,
Yes?
Dr. Rasmussen,
Yes.
Dr. Heights.
Yes.